Good morning.
Good morning.
By the way, your nephew is so cute.
Sorry.
Silva isn't on the committee's list.
But she called me and asked me if it was okay if she, and I was just like, oh, she is on the committee. Yeah.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I didn't include that in the email for remote for work purposes. That's why I'm requesting remote.
No, but she called me.
Yeah, no, my fault.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Wonderful it
I
is to
did
see her. It's like
contact.
she's a movie star on screen right there.
Don't talk in my direction.
Blair, are
I
we
did
ready?
contact Mr. Chair.
Morning, everyone. It'd be the morning of August 9th, 9 a.m. I'd like to call to order the Kane County Human Services Committee. Roll call, please.
Allen. Kenyon.
Here.
Lewis.
Who's here?
Silva.
Silva's here.
Carver. Linder.
Linder here.
Sturgis.
Serge is here.
You have an in-person quorum.
Okay, we have remote request for Mike Lindner and Monica Silva. And both had called in prior. Is that okay with the committee? Okay, not a problem. Thank you both for letting us know in advance. We do have a quorum in the room, right? One, two.
I'm sorry.
I don't count.
I forgot. Kenyon counts.
I-
Kenyon counts. I didn't realize he was on this committee.
Kenyon, Lewis.
If it's okay with
Okay,
Ms.
Ken,
Juby, we'll
it's-
move on.
She's been wound up and she can't unwind.
No more coffee in that room. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the July
I
12th?
move for unanimous consent of approval of minutes.
Any opposition there? Is that a roll call or unanimous consent? Perfect. I don't see any public comment or anybody in the room. Is there anybody online, Blair? I don't think so. Okay. If we could move, I am motioning or would like approval to modify our agenda to move the executive session with the state's attorney up so we can get the individual in and out rather than waiting through our entire report just to release closed session minutes. Would that be okay with everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so I believe that was Mr. Kenyon that motioned that
Yeah.
and Ms. Lewis
So let's-
second.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Silva,
Yes.
Tarver. Linder,
Linder, yes.
Sturgis.
Yes.
Going to close
But
session.
we don't want her to know the secrets.
Yeah. I don't-
Blair, let us know when we're okay.
Yes, those folks online, please accept the invites to go into the closed session. At this point, I have Mr. Shepro joining us. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, please accept those invites. If you're in the room on your computer, I need you to accept as well.
Madam State's Attorney, it's all yours. Oh, I'm so sorry.
By few moments of power, give me my,
Okay, Mr. Wizard.
You have your job today? Well, comfort yourself.
I am still missing one person to accept. Actually, now it's two people to accept. Okay, I'm going to have to call you out if you're not accepting. Please accept the invites if you have them on your screen.
Call him out. Come on. I vote you call him out.
Okay, Mr. Berman, are you joining us?
He's spying.
Yeah. Nope.
Is Silva and Linder on?
Yeah, just
They probably already joined.
If they've already joined, let's move on.
hold on.
Thank you. I'm just surrounded by sick people. No, I'm not sick. We're remodeling a bathroom.
Ouch.
But is it a non-agenda item then? It's not on the agenda. Right? To approve closed session minutes?
Yeah, I think.
You're in open session.
Yeah. All right, bring us back in the session, please.
Allen, Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Silva,
Silva's here.
Tarver, Linder,
Linder here.
Surges.
Surges here.
Didcom?
Mr. Shepro, are you on?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can. I have a question for you, sir. If we went to executive session to discuss old minutes to be released, but it's not on the agenda to release them, is it okay to just vote to release them, or am I out of order on that? It's not an agenda item. How's that work?
I would say that since this is a procedural issue, I think that it would be okay to go ahead and move to release them.
Mr. Kenyon, motions to release executive session minutes, second by Lewis.
Minutes.
Any
Just as
discussion?
the motion should say, as per Exhibit A.
As as
That's
A.
what he said. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Okay.
what I
Thank
seconded.
you, Mr. Shepro. Any discussion on that? Please call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, I.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Silva. Ms. Silva,
That must have been a yes.
Can you hear me?
now we
Silva,
can.
yes, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Sturgis.
Surges, yes. Beth, that's 10 minutes.
You don't get to vote.
Um,
And Tarver, yes.
Got it.
item number 6, monthly financial reports are on file. Does anybody have any question on those? Item number 7, Department of Human Resource Management. Hi, Jamie.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Morning. The first report we have is the Blue Cross Blue Shield invoice. This is a pretty standard monthly invoice. Everything is right on track and as expected with Intolerance. The next report is the Blue Cross and MERP numbers. Again, everything is with Intolerance. The financial trackers, if you want to go forward to 2023, we're currently in the green there, 367,000. Those numbers do increase over time as more bills roll in because they do have a year to submit bills, but we're right on track.
Jamie, is that number in the green an aggregate cumulative for the year or just for the month?
That is the aggregate cumulative for the year. So that's the box where we track where we're going for the year. But again, bills can be submitted for up to a year. So where we end that, where we look at the end of it this year, it will continue to change for up to a year after the year closes. But it's right about where it should be. We're tracking right.
I know
where we expect it to be.
370,000 is a lot of money,
Mhm.
but in this context, oh my gosh, that's fabulous. We are spot on.
Right. In terms of, this being, a, $16 million, $17 million, 367,000 is very close. Also, there are bills that were incurred before June that have not been submitted yet. So that number will decrease as more bills roll in. But we are right where we hope to be.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
The next is the workers' comp and liability reports. Again, everything is within tolerance. There isn't anything out of the ordinary on these reports. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to go through them. But the program is continuing to trend well.
Do we have any large reserves sitting out there for any singular cases?
We don't have anything that extends into excess coverage. So, the reports, if there are any, the dollar amounts on the reports include reserves. So when a case comes in, the professionals at CCMSI work with us and the state's attorney if needed to determine what the expectation is based on the facts of the case. So we actually will incur that reserve on these reports right away. So these reports do reflect what we expect to pay out, including any final settlements. It's not 100% accurate, but the people at CCMSI tend to call these pretty close.
And CCMSI just received their renewal contract with us.
Yes, we RFP'd that earlier this year. We ended up choosing to stay with CCMSI through the RFP process, and we are renewing our contract with them. So that just went through this board meeting yesterday to renew that contract next year. And that is, they're approved for up to 6 years of contracts through that previous RFP.
Perfect. I'd like to just take a minute to thank the committee for your support on that. I think these people have been responsive to our needs and have just been an outstanding business partner to deal with. So thank you all.
Yes, they are far more than a vendor. They are absolutely a partner with us on this. We have multiple calls with them each month. We discuss all the claims. We have calls with departments. We include the state's attorney. So we interact with them on an almost daily basis.
Applicant and staff changes.
Looking at the applicant and staff changes, we do have a lot of positions open. There's a lot of movement going on right now, but we've also received a lot of applications. You can take a look at the new hire report. As you can see, we've had 16 new hires in the month of July. We had only 5 terminations, so we are making progress on our list of open positions.
Thank you so much. HR updates not attached.
There was a question previously regarding the JJC and utilizing that mental health benefit that the committee discussed and provided them earlier. I had a discussion with Mike Davis, and he said that the program has been working extremely well. They have had incidents where they've had debriefings done following incidents with residents, and they have also offered mental health check-ins to the staff, and a portion of the staff have been participating in those almost like a well visit check-ins.
When you say that they've had meetings after, like in a group of people, like, hey, let's all get together and talk about what just happened, or an individual or two that had anxiety after the.
My understanding is those are individual. It's not, so if there's an incident such as, let's say, juvenile attacks one of the counselors or something of that nature, then that person would be able to have a debriefing with a counselor where they can discuss what happened, determine if they need any additional counseling because of it. So it's just a debriefing after an incident. I believe those are done on an individual basis, just to talk through the incident. And usually that's all that the person needs following that, but that's very helpful after an incident just to have someone to talk to.
I think that's. What you're describing is, I believe, exactly what we heard they were requesting.
Yes.
So, I mean, folks, well done. I mean, just if everything we did worked as well as this, Yahoo. So thank you.
Well, thanks to Michael Davis and Lisa for bringing forward such a simple, inexpensive solution that really does work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jamie, going on to compliance, item 8A, training reports.
This is sexual harassment training that we try to keep the board updated on because this is a statutory requirement. So as I think as staff are getting used to this being an annual requirement, we are getting better responses than in these first couple of years. So we've done well. We're still hanging on and with a few stragglers, but we give it a lot of attention, lots of emails. You're any board members who
Okay,
haven't done.
Three of us in the room raising our hand, yes.
Are going to start getting some reminder emails specifically from HR staff rather than the system email, reminding you of the statutory requirements.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Item 9, old business. I do have one item that Jamie, as usual, I'm going to ask you to make sure that you keep me within bounds on this. There were a handful of meetings that took place regarding the in-house equity study. As we're nearing completion of that, or getting it to the point where we have enough information to begin putting the final steps together, the comments were made that during a committee meeting, I, Cliff Surgis, as chair, may have made a reference to something that sent a ripple throughout the employee force that people didn't like. Shocking. I agree. And I want to address that specifically because I thought I had couched any of those comments with, this is the intent, which is all good. But somehow the perception of that caused anxiety, caused ill intentions. And that wasn't the case. So for those online, I want to make sure, and please understand, I'm not saying that omnibus, there's people online that were specific to this conversation. For those online, I want to make sure that I am not above apologizing if I said something that caused anxiety. That was never the intent. And I will challenge this committee to make sure that me and Mike Lindner, that when we make a comment, if you feel that that comment is not in the spirit that we're the direction, call us out, challenge us, steel sharpens steel. Let's make sure that, I don't want to get into the specifics, but I believe it was conversational in nature, not dictatorial in this is the way we're going with this. And I apologize if in any way, shape, or form, any one of our staff, departments, employees took that to be the wrong way. And I would hope that we always have an open door so that if somebody could say, hey, I hear what you said. Are you sure you meant the way it sounded? Just call us. Let's make sure we walk through it. The whole reason we have this committee process is that there's like 17 steps, for crying out loud. This is not end all be all. This is just the birthplace of some items that go to finance, go to exec, go to board. We don't hide this stuff, but if at the genesis it comes out wrong from the get-go, please, let's challenge each other. Leslie and I, Ms. Juby, we're building a relationship where we have rapport. I am not offended if Leslie calls and says, what in the world were you talking about? I appreciate that and encourage it because it will give the better end product when it's done. So Jamie, am I mistaken on my perception of what was said in those meetings?
Yes, as far as I know, yes. I'm not familiar with whatever comment it was that
Yeah, me
that caused a
neither.
ripple, so I can't really state what that was, but
Pissed.
right. My
People were
understanding
pissed based on my comments and
was when the information update on where the equity project was presented, that as I presented, I said this was just an intermediate draft and we are not complete yet. And that some felt that you made a comment that it was done, and they were displeased by that. That's my understanding.
Straight up, I'm apologizing to anybody that took offense by that. I don't necessarily remember saying it like that, but if I did, and I'm not defending it. If I did, I apologize. It's just that easy. So, but hold my feet to the fire. None of us are perfect and let's keep moving. Sorry. Okay. Other old business, I have none. Are we okay? New business, paid leave for all.
So the Paid Leave for All Act was passed by the state. It will go into effect on January 1st. It does change the provisions of how paid benefit time is provided. I did include in the packet a summary that was written by an employment law firm available publicly online, but it was a fairly well-written summary regarding the provisions. I sat down with our payroll department, looked at how the provisions set forth in the law might affect our system. We currently do not use an accrual system for our paid leave. So while we do provide sufficient paid leave, we do not provide it early enough or in the accrual method that the statute requires. So after discussion with our payroll department, the solution that seems to work best with our current system is to make an adjustment to our sick personal leave bank that we give employees. The way that bank currently works is that on December 1st, on the beginning of the fiscal year, 4 days are given to each employee that those employees can use starting on December 1st. However, they are actually earned quarterly. Those days, the new law provides for 5 days. So by increasing that existing bank from 4 days to 5 days, that is the most administratively feasible way to meet the requirements of the law. The other adjustment we would need to make to that bank is we currently make it available to new employees after 6 months of employment. The new law states it would need to be made available after 90 days employment. So this policy would adjust that existing bank to meet the compliance. There are other ways to do it, that some, such as changing our vacation to an accrual basis, would be not administratively feasible. It would be exceptionally difficult. So that was one of the reasons we didn't choose that. The other reason not to adjust our existing vacation bank is that the law does not provide that this time has to be paid if unused, unless you make it your vacation bank. And then the laws that apply to vacation banks, which do require it to be paid if unused, would apply. So that would mean an employee who started, worked 90 days and was given their vacation up front in compliance with the law would be paid for that if they quit on their 91st day. So that's not something we wanted to do. So by applying this other bank was more analogous to the requirements of the state law. So this is my proposal to the committee for consideration about how to
Has this
adjust.
been vetted by the state's attorney's office at all?
It hasn't yet, and it will be. That's why it's not being presented as a resolution today. It's being presented as a discussion item. And that's because there are other ways to meet the requirements, such as adjusting the vacation bank. And if the board doesn't like this solution, I can certainly present more solutions. But again, this is the one that when reviewing with staff seemed the most administratively feasible and the bank that seemed most similar to the law.
So I have one statement and one specific question. Let's start with the question. Blair, can you go to page 45? On item B, guidelines number 1, the last sentence, is that 240 days or 240 hours?
So that is the extended illness bank. So we're not changing the provisions of the extended illness bank. It was just a part of the same policy because it is also sick leave. So it was within the same policy. So in just continuing with it being one policy, that is our current extended illness bank. The extended illness bank is not paid out at termination. If an employee does terminate with an IMRF pension, those days do get credited towards service credit at a rate of 1 day for every 20, but there is no incurred financial obligation associated with those days for the county. So yes, the correct answer to that is yes, 240 days.
Days, okay. And second one is just a more general comment. One of my, an area of consternation on this particular item is when we were doing the budget a cycle or two ago, one of the glaring pieces that jumped out at me was a multi-million-dollar line item for accrued vacation time, if you will. And I was kind of caught off guard with that because I didn't realize that within our structure, we were allowed to accrue vacation time. And that led to a can of worms where department heads were in fact allowing that against policy, and we had to wrestle with that a little bit. How does this play into that at all? Is this cleaning it up, superseding it, totally unrelated, but kind of in the same family? Help me understand that just a bit.
This policy is totally unrelated to vacation. We decided not to make any adjustments to vacation to comply with this law because it would definitely increase that liability unless we switched to an accrual method. So our current vacation policy and our current methodology there is an employee works an entire year, and in the background, they accrue a year's worth of vacation while they work. And then on their first anniversary, they get an entire year's worth of vacation forwarded to them. In their second year, they are accruing vacation that they will receive on the first of their second anniversary. The issue in terms of payouts is you always have someone accruing up to a year of time that they do not have the ability to use, and you have to, by law, pay them for that at termination. So an employee who's been here a couple days short of 2 years may have 2 years worth of vacation to pay out under our current system. It's not the most updated method to use, but our current payroll system and our current methodology, as well as all the staggered union contracts, definitely make changing that a difficulty for our payroll department. It is something we've recognized as not the way we want to do it going forward, but it will be a multi-year process to work on making an adjustment to that. So this is something that finance is aware of, and perhaps in the coming years, you'll hear a recommendation regarding our payroll system or changing that method. But it is a huge job, not really administratively feasible and not to our benefit because it does change the payout provisions of that paid leave for all time. This bank, which is a separate bank, so it's not impacted by the vacation bank at all, does not pay out when someone leaves, with the exception of those in which they've worked a full quarter. So if you work a quarter, you get a fourth of the time. That's the way our current policy works. So they only get paid out for time that they have earned but not used.
Thank you so much. Any questions on that at all? Anyone online? Jamie, thank you for being so thorough as always.
I have consensus to send this for vetting and then bring it back next time for vote?
I'm so sorry. I apologize. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Who do you send that to, by the way?
I
Who's that
send
guy now?
Well, I send it to the civil division, to the two in charge over there, to John Frank and Aaron Brady, and then they
So is
assign it.
Vince not our guy anymore?
Well, Vince is still our guy on some things. What they do is management assigns it based on workload.
Okay.
So I know Vince Coyle is our expert on the ethics ordinance, and I have a feeling he'll be your guy anytime we're talking about ethics. And sometimes he may be the one who vets these. The next policy we have up here, actually, I think Steve Ford vetted that for us. So
Super.
it depends. They just assign it.
Appreciate that. All right, item B, resolution adopting a recruitment policy to the personnel policy handbook.
So this was a policy that was requested by this committee regarding job postings and recruitment. I talked about it and I brought it forward for discussion prior to vetting, as I similarly did to the previous one. And this committee was happy with it. This has now been vetted by the state's attorney's office and is available for you to vote. It is in the exact same form that it was when we reviewed it 2 meetings ago. So we reviewed this in June. So it's now vetted. If you have any questions on it, I'd be happy to answer them. This is just regarding posting, internal postings, internal transfers. We previously did not have a policy governing this.
Any conversation on that? Okay, Miss Allen, would you please motion the resolution first and then we'll have open. for-
Absolutely. I move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Tarver seconds.
Mhm.
Discussion, Deb.
I just, in my years here, I've just always been very, I've admired the fact that our people feel comfortable moving around from department to department, sometimes department to office and vice versa. To me, that it indicates a healthy workplace where people feel that they can look for a better fit sometimes, or sometimes for more money. And our equity will help even that out, but there will still always be the opportunity for a better fit. And it's just been, I've seen, not a lot of movement, but enough. I'm here relatively rarely and I still see people moving around. And I just think I think that's healthy.
Thank you. Anyone else? I do want to comment that, Deb, I so appreciate the fact that when we're even myopically, even in a committee level, the depth that we have from mature tenured board members through brand new, the first time going through the system. I'm amazed at how well we all work together, specifically in this committee, to get to the end product and the decorum that we all display going through that. And I appreciate when you chime in with something as
Thank you.
I just appreciate that. I think that we're
Some-
stronger for it. So without any other conversation, could we call the vote to move this? Where would this go to next?
Executive committee.
There we go.
Allen,
Alan, I.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Silva,
Silva, yes.
Tarver,
Tarver, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Burgess.
Surges, yes. Okay, and Jamie, I think this was something that we had debated on putting this on agenda for today. But this is just up for conversation's sake. It preliminary, everything has to start someplace, and I'm sure this will become a resolution like in 3 years or something, but today it's just a conversation.
Correct. So this is a draft of a compensation and position management policy. Once we complete this initial equity study, there needs to be guidelines around maintaining it. If we don't maintain it, it will be completely changed and no longer valid in a year. So that's what these guidelines are intended to do. As we look forward to how something like this affects our elected offices who are currently opting into participating in the equity study, the suggestion that we have going forward would be that annually elected officials would opt in or opt out of participating in the county's position management and compensation program. If they opt in, this policy would apply to them. If they opt out, it wouldn't. So you don't have an internal control issue because it's their option whether they participate or not. One of the features of this policy that is a departure from the way the county has been run in the past is that it provides for separating the cost of living or COLA adjustment from a merit increase. Under the current system, all we do is provide a flat amount to the departments. Departments only have a choice to either give that flat amount, which the employees, after hearing what the amount is, they expected. You would have to actually short one employee to have money to give to another employee to give them a merit increase, which I don't believe is the intent of a cost of living increase. So cost of living increase would be what maintains the status quo. It's based on the actual change in the cost of living, and the board would separately determine a cost of living adjustment and then separately provide a merit pool. So those two would be separated, and then departments would have an opportunity to reward their high functioning employees with a merit increase. So right now we just have no mechanism for departments to provide a merit increase to their high functioning employees and really reward those employees who go above and beyond. Employees here for a long time will see that the employee that just shows up receives the same increase as the one who goes above and beyond. And I don't believe that's the best way to encourage our employees to achieve. So a merit increase is a really good way to encourage that achievement in our employees. And so this policy provides for guidelines around merit increases to ensure that everything is done equitably, and also provides for evaluations to accompany those merit increases so that we have the actual objective reason that that merit increase was put in place.
So Jamie, somebody had made the comment to me that, but this is taxpayer public money. You shouldn't be giving merit increases. And I looked at the individual and said, what the hell are you talking about? Public money does not come with the handcuffs of doing that. If you want the best and the brightest, then you better be prepared to incentivize them to be the best and the brightest. And is that in the spirit of this document?
Yes, that is absolutely the spirit of this document. If you do not have a way to recognize the difference between a high achieving employee and someone who just shows up, what you're going to develop is a
Gonna go
workforce that
someplace else.
just shows up,
Yeah.
and your high functioning employees will go somewhere else.
So I just want to throw that out there, that if there are any member of the committees that have an alternate view of this, this is the free look period, because this will become has this been vetted?
No, this
So
is
you're
just
looking for
feedback or
feedback today
Mhm.
before we send this for vetting,
Correct.
before we move it on. So this is so incredibly preliminary. But again, we want to throw it out there to say, this is the intent. If anybody has an issue with that, please speak up, but we would like to revisit this next month. If anybody, if there are no issues at that point, let's move this on to the state's attorney for vetting, and let's try and wrap this up November-ish, October-ish.
Yeah, I would,
that fair?
I'm happy to, if this is the general direction that the committee is happy with. And I drafted this with a lot of input from surrounding counties' existing policies. So that's where a lot of this language comes from. DuPage, Lake, McHenry County, they all have their handbooks online. So they're all, current policies with those counties. So this was drafted with our neighboring counties in mind in terms of what currently functions in those counties. If this represents the direction, the general direction that this committee is looking to go, then I will submit it for vetting. At the same time, members of the board can certainly submit their questions and comments to me and to Mr. Surges so that we can review those and make edits as needed.
Fair? Anita?
So I'm going to confess, I did not read this whole long document. It's been a little intense lately. So I will guarantee I will have it read by next month, but I'm fine with sending it to the state's attorney while we review it internally.
I'm
also.
actually okay sending it to the state's attorney while we're doing this. Why are we going to delay this by another 30 days or 60 days? But Anita, are you suggesting that that would be a consensus
Yes.
to move this along? Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Lindner?
Yeah.
Mr. Tarver? Ms. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Kenyon? I think you have consensus, Jamie, to move that to the state's attorney.
Okay.
So, and then again, it doesn't mean we won't change it at some point, but
I
let's
think
have them
this-
look at it before we spend a lot more.
This is brand new. I think it will be a work in progress as we settle into this new system, even after we get our final version and it's passed. I have a feeling that this is the type of policy that is going to be a living document that is consistently updated based on needs and changes.
Okay. We are done with new business. In old business item 9, I failed to ask, can we get an update on where we're at on the other study?
So we have completed all of our meetings for the last stage. So, in the first stage, our meetings focused on grading the positions, which means take the individual out of the position and look just at the terms of the position in terms of what it's required and where it should be graded. The second process was to then put the employee, we're going to look at the actual employee and determine where they fall in the grade, which is something that only the departments and supervisors can determine. I don't personally know these employees and their functioning or their background. So guidelines were provided to the department in terms of these are the things you should consider, but ultimately whatever rating they were given by their department heads is what is put in for the second set. So we did have a meeting with each one to discuss this, answer any questions they have on this process, review if there was anything that looked out of the ordinary, have a discussion with them. We've had all of those meetings. Some of the departments came to those meetings, didn't have their sheets filled. They just asked questions, help me understand what we're doing. We gave explanations and they said, okay, I'll send our sheets. There are several departments who have not returned that information yet. So we've asked for it by the end of today. And then I'll be personally following up with any departments who don't have it submitted by end of day today. Once we have all of that information together, as well as, consensus from the departments on the grading, then it will be really just a really big math problem that Excel will do most of the work to get your final results. So I hope to have a report for you next month with final results that represent a consensus from all the participating departments and some final grades.
And Jamie, I want to make sure I thank you and your team for this, but it has not been without taking some shrapnel and some hits. And I do want to, I see Tom Rickert is listening in, and I did want to make sure that I acknowledge a conversation with Tom. So many of our jobs here, we try and look at in a budget season, from this year to next year, how do we, look at grading these people? How do you do that when you're looking at a Department of Transportation who starts a project in 2000 that may not be completed till 2030? I mean, when they're building these roads and these intersections and these bridges, we're trying to find and keep a contiguous staff online that transcends these projects. And Tom explained his frustration in trying to find, keep, motivate, maintain staff that goes beyond this in a period of time where it would be all too easy to let people age out of their position. Well, how do you do that when the bridge project's not going to be built for 20 more years? Who's on top of that all? And I'll be candid, until Tom and Jody mentioned the scope of those projects, I don't know that I appreciated their perspective on that until that conversation. And I just wanted to thank them for voicing their concerns. So Deb, you had a comment?
It's a little off.
When does that ever stop?
Okay. I remember, and I have to be careful about depending on my memory, but I remember that we had a 4-year period of time when we had our labor contracts organized and we did a 2% increase across the board for people who were in the union contracts and people who were not. Now, I believe that that ended at least a year and maybe 2 years ago. So one of the things I wanted to try and keep track of is, I believe that when we started doing our union contracts, we had maybe one union contract that came in at 3%, and the others were all holding because we had such a lot of inflation. And I think there were requests for like 7% to 15%. And that was, it was just so volatile that we kind of, as far as I know, we set it aside. So we have most of the unions not under contract. And my experience is that when we finally sign them, they will all be retroactive. Now, where are our non-union people? Have we not given any raises at all for 2 years now? And is there a thought about how we are going to address that?
I might refer that to Mr. Berman's committee. I don't know that we necessarily address that compensation level here.
Okay.
Can
Can it be in the ether so that we're thinking about it?
absolutely in the ether. But I do want to say that it would be I would probably agree with you that while in the past, those two have always been in lockstep,
Mhm.
that I believe that there has been a parting of the ways on that.
Okay.
And that, and I could be absolutely positively wrong, but I believe this budget cycle, the non-union, union, there is a disparity that's been presented. And I don't know if that's appropriate or inappropriate or what, but my thinking, if you're going to the ether, my thinking is you're not incorrect on that. That perception is out there. So.
Well, and there's a little bit more, I had some people say that in their case, the 2% was maybe enough to cover the increase in their health insurance premiums. So what we were basically doing was, for some people, we were just keeping them even so that they could continue to carry their health insurance without having to dip into their pocket. I'm not sure that's the right way to say it, but so it's if we've missed a couple of years here, we're gonna, and as we're trying to build a budget, we really have to take that into consideration, because that you start to talk about real money. There was a time when a 0.5% increase to our employees was like, I think $1.5 million. So a 2% increase would be 3 million, et cetera, et cetera.
And I understand that. And
Okay.
I
Thanks.
no, and as crystal as I can, not our purview.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 other committees that deal with that, and I will validate what my perception is. And given that, based on your comment, and given that, we should let that be where it's supposed to be. So, okay.
I need to go be mouthy at other committees.
Did not say that, ma'am. So,
I do think once we have this established system for non-union employees to be one whole established entity within the same system. I believe having that conversation and keeping non-union employees, treated in the same manner as the union employees will be easier to do. So you do not have to have 30 different department heads coming and advocating for their non-union staff. You can have, our department and those department heads all come together and make the same argument for the entire group of non-union staff. So I think that conversation will be facilitated by having this system in place.
Thank you. And
Jamie.
Mr. Kenyon, I do have a question for you specifically. Are meeting minutes on an accrual basis? So if we motion to adjourn now, does my 10 minutes go into the bank?
I've received something through the mail. It said Governor Pritzker just approved a 19% raise,
It's 4% a year. 19% over the length of the
a life of a contract, 4% a year for Illinois, the people that clean the toilets.
Okay. Thank you for that information.
But that's
Again, I
what-
don't know that that's something that's a purview of this committee.
That's what we're competing against.
Understand that.
And they get a $1,200 bonus.
I.
See?
Okay, I don't know that we have any public comment. We've already approved the executive session minutes. We need a motion to place reports on file.
Alan Moose.
Alan moves, Tarver seconds.
Unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent. Is that an all in favor then, Mr. Shepro?
Without objection, so ordered.
There we go. Mr. Kenyon, I believe you are up, kind sir.
I move we adjourn 10 minutes early and recording 10 minutes in the.
In the
meeting
bank.
Right. First time ever.
Yeah, this-
6 years and he's figured out how to run a meeting.
This is his first time ever.